Hey there, bookkeeping side hustle community. It's Kate, and I am excited to be here today to talk with you about this super nerdy topic: taxes. Should bookkeepers become an enrolled agent? I think it's going to be exciting for us to get to the bottom of this. By the goal for the end of this video is by the end of it, you'll kind of know whether this is something you should consider adding to your firm or not. Most bookkeepers ask themselves this question at some point in their career. You're certainly going to have clients ask you, and so I think it's a good thing to educate ourselves on. The enrolled agent credential is the IRS's credential for taxpayers, their highest credential. It's an exam. It's a highly respected credential. It's not easy to get. And our guest, Tom Norton, is an EA, an enrolled agent, and he's really passionate about helping others learn about taxes and learn how to get the training that they need to be a good tax preparer. So when we met online, I thought he should come and answer this question with us. All right, I think that's all the intro we got. Y'all, if y'all aren't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then now I'm going to ask Tom to introduce yourself. Tell us, your journey from your starting off as I know you're a CPA as well, and so just the journey for in the accounting profession that you've had.
Sure. Thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. My name is Tom Norton. I am both a CPA and an enrolled agent. And I went to college for accounting. And while I was in college, I worked as an accounting clerk, so bookkeeping type of functions. And then when I graduated with my degree, I took the CPA exam and passed it. And then I went to work for one of they were called the Big 8 accounting firms at that time. It's the Big 4 these days. This is back in 1986. So that's telling you how long ago it was. And then I worked there for a few years. And at that time, you had to have 2 years of experience to get your license. So I was licensed as a CPA in 1988. And after a few years at Arthur Andersen, I was hired away by a client, which frequently happens. And I did tax work and other work there. And then over the years, I had a series of jobs. I actually got out of doing full-time tax for a while. I was in healthcare for a long time for some different employers, but I always did tax on the side. I had family and friends with small businesses and things that I always did tax returns on the side. So fast forward to 2017, and I thought I need to formalize this a little bit more. I formed an LLC, and I started looking into doing business. And of course, with the internet, you can do business anywhere in the country. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking at different states. In some states, I'm looking at you, California. Some states have pretty strict requirements that if you're an out-of-state CPA, you're supposed to post a bond and do all of these other things. But it said if you're an enrolled agent, you don't have to do that because it's a national credential.
Yeah. Okay.
So they didn't require that. And also, I had been doing tax on the side, but not full time. And I thought, it'd probably be good for me to get a refresher anyway. So I went ahead and I looked into it and I studied for the EA exam. I took it and passed it and became an enrolled agent there in 2017. So now today, I actually work part-time for a pretty large firm. And then part-time, I have my own clients on the side. And there's no conflict of interest because the firm I work for caters to people who can afford a big firm. And the clients that I work for are the small fries out there. But I have both of those things. Then in my spare time, I make YouTube videos. So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, y'all, in the description of this video, and I'll pop it in the chat as well here in a second, he's got a YouTube channel called EA Tax Training, and I'll put that link here as well. But go to that if you're not going to learn taxes from me on this channel, y'all. So if this is appealing, you can go to him to learn it. And I love that you have a little side hustle. I think a lot of people, it's a great way to be a good steward of our time, to earn extra income. And I can tell for you, it's what you're passionate about. You're one of these people that loves taxes. And I think it's okay if y'all love taxes, folks listening to this. I've thought about do I need to do taxes? Do I not? I've landed on the no. I don't think I'm going to, although I have prepared them as a volunteer for the IRS VITA programs, the
Great.
volunteer. And I think that's another great way. If anyone wants to sort of dip their toe in the tax world, they will train you and you'll be able to prepare taxes, and you will feel it's going to be some of the most meaningful work that I've ever done. Was that the times I've done the free tax preparation for the low income and the elderly. So that's another topic, but we're going to try to help people figure out should they be doing this. Thanks for Louie and Natty who have chimed in here. Y'all chime in where you're listening from, and let's move on to our next question here. Oh, and also ask questions, y'all. Ask question in the chat. I will field them for you. So some people might not have heard of the EA credential, so I would just love to know, like, anything more about like the basics of what it is. How does it compare to other tax credentials? Do you have to have one to do taxes? I would say I didn't know. I'd never heard of what an enrolled agent was until I started my bookkeeping firm. And then I noticed these people who like weren't CPAs, but they had this EA thing after their name.
Right.
So tell what is it? Yeah, kind of the what and the why of the EA.
Sure. So first of all, you do not have to have a credential to prepare tax returns for compensation. So I want to make that clear. You are not required to be an enrolled agent or CPA or anything else to prepare tax returns. The only requirement technically is that you get a PTIN, which is a preparer tax identification number from the IRS, costs $19 or $20. All they do is make sure you are current on your taxes. As long as you are, you can get a PTIN.
Okay.
Okay. So
pretty low bar. Pretty low bar. Okay.
Now, if you're working for yourself, you probably also want to be able to electronically file tax returns. And in order to do that yourself, you have to be called something an ERO, which is an electronic return originator. That's a little bit higher bar, but it's not from an education or tax training standpoint, but from a security standpoint. You have to go through a criminal background check. And if you don't have a credential, they'll fingerprint you and things like that. But if you have that, then you can electronically file returns. So then if you want to have a credential, there's a few routes to go. The IRS actually has a couple of credentials. So the enrolled agent is the one we're mostly talking about today. But they also have one called the AFSP, which is the annual filing season program. We can talk more about that later if you want to. It's kind of a lesser credential, but their main credential is the enrolled agent. And then what's special about being an enrolled agent is that you are on the exact same footing as far as the IRS is concerned as attorneys and CPAs. So attorneys, CPAs, and enrolled agents have exactly the same practice rights in front of the IRS. In other words, you can represent clients all the way from a phone call with a customer service agent that you call at the IRS, through audits, through appeals of appeals, anything to do with the IRS. If you are an enrolled agent, you have exactly the same rights to represent clients as do attorneys and CPAs.
All right.
Okay. Now, obviously, if you then want to appeal to the court, well, CPAs and EAs are kind of out. You're going to have to be an attorney to do that. But within the IRS, it's exactly the same. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about all that. So I guess let's talk about like if there's any benefits that a bookkeeper should know about becoming like financial or academic. Like, what are the benefits? If I'm going to sit and study, what am I going to learn? Like, how am I going to tie that to the bookkeeping that I'm an expert at?
Right. So in order to become an enrolled agent, well, there's actually two paths. One is you could be a former IRS employee that meets certain requirements. We'll ignore that for the rest of this conversation. If that's you can look into that. But for the rest of us, you have to pass an exam. It's a 3-part exam. And so what you'll be studying is individual tax. That's part 1. Business taxation. That's part 2. And then something called representation, practice, and procedures, which that's actually how you interact with the IRS and with your clients.
Okay.
So that's what you will be studying. The advantages are to a bookkeeper, well, first of all, if you want to prepare tax returns, and that's a separate conversation that we can talk about. But if you've decided you want to prepare tax returns, being an enrolled agent is going to allow you to be much more valuable to your clients.
Okay.
Because again, as we said, you can represent clients all the way through anything with the IRS. If you just go and get your P10 and take money for preparing tax returns, you're essentially not going to be able to do anything. There is a checkbox on the 1040 that says, yes, you can, IRS can talk to this person. So you could talk to the person who answers the phone maybe about that return, but essentially anything beyond that, you are not going to be able to do without a credential.
Okay.
And so if your clients get a notice from the IRS and you need to respond to that notice, you can't do that if you don't have a credential. If they get it audited, you can't assist them with the audit if you don't have the credential. So that's probably one of the main things. Then the other thing is you're going to learn tax. You're going to know tax. And even if you weren't going to prepare tax returns, I think it makes you a better bookkeeper, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
If you know tax and you know the types of things that need to be noted and recorded and separated, it's nice to have things in separate accounts if they have special tax treatment. So those types of things, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious if anyone listening has like dabbled in adding tax to their bookkeeping firm, if any of y'all are already doing that, or if your clients are asking you. I think I've heard, some bookkeepers lose clients because we don't do taxes. And I've had that conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
They find me, they think I'm good, they've been referred to me, but they're kind of coming to me with this like all-in-one idea, and I don't meet their criteria, Like,
Right.
I only want to talk to one person. And, thankfully I've been able to build a business that is, without the tax prep. But there's been moments where it's like I would like to be able to say yes to that.
Sure.
There's more moments where I don't want to say. I'm like, no. I see what tax season is like. I don't think I actually want that. So I'd rather not have the client. Also,
one of the things you mentioned is you didn't know what an enrolled agent is. So I do want to make that clear. Most people don't. So when you're out there in the world, I don't want you to think if you become an enrolled agent and you put EA behind your name that all of a sudden people are going to flock to your door because, oh, wow, she's an enrolled agent or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them aren't even going to know what it means.
I see.
However, once you're actually talking to them and you have a chance to sit down with them and to explain what it means and what it is, I think it is an advantage to have it rather than to not have it. And it's also an advantage if you ever are looking to get referrals from other tax preparers. So sometimes there are some firms that they just don't deal with the small clients, and they're looking for somebody that they can send those
Mm-hmm.
small referrals to. And so if you're an enrolled agent, other tax preparers will know what it means, and it will help from that standpoint.
Okay. This is kind of still on the admin part of what the enrolled agent is. So I'll ask, someone is asking, is there a time limit to pass the tests, the 3 tests? Because there is a time limit on the CPA exams from start to finish. Is there a time limit on these?
Yes, there is a time limit, and it's within 3 years that you have to pass. So from the time you pass the first one till the time you pass the last one is 3 years. And you don't have to take them in order. It's part 1, 2, and 3, but you can take them in any order.
So here is the CPA exam, or the harder than the EA exam?
Yes, that's the short answer. So the CPA exam is much more comprehensive. So it includes tax, but it also includes just a ton of financial accounting and reporting, all the way from basic accounting to very advanced accounting for for-profit, for not-for-profit, for governmental entities. It's got auditing, business law, general economics. So it just covers a lot more ground, a lot more material. So there's a lot more to study. And so it is more difficult. Yes.
Okay. These are some of the practical considerations that I want to make sure we get to next. So we've talked about, how hard the exam is. I kind of went on the nose with that. The CPA is more well known. So that is like, let's be clear about that, y'all. There are people who associate CPA with tax, even though that's not true. But EA kind of is synonymous with tax. There's lots of
That's
CPAs
correct.
who don't do taxes. But
So,
for some
but
reason,
if you look at the difference from your standpoint of if you want to get a credential, the difference is just night and day. So if you want to be a CPA, you're going to have to go, you have to at least get a bachelor's degree. Most states, you're either going to have a master's degree or an equivalent number of hours, certain number of hours in accounting. Then you have to pass the exam, which is that exam is the same throughout the United States, but you got to pass the exam. Then you have to get experience before you can be licensed, a year or two of experience, depending on the state. So it's a lot in order to get that credential. Obviously, to be an attorney, you got to go to law school, pass the bar exam, etc. So to be an EA, you do have to pass this exam. It's not an easy exam, so I don't want to give that impression. I would say it's moderately difficult. I think the pass rates are 60 to 70%, depending on the part, depending on the year. But also remember, in that is a lot of people who really don't study and they just show up and take the exam. You know, take that into consideration. But you don't have any educational requirements. You don't have to have a degree. You don't technically have to have a high school diploma. If you can pass those exams, and then to become an EA, you do have to pass a criminal background check. But if you can pass that, you can be an enrolled agent. And as I said, you are on par as far as the IRS is concerned. With CPAs and attorneys.
How long did it take you to take your 3 exams?
I did it over the course of, it was a summer. So I can't remember exactly, but I would say June to August. I took one each month. You can take them. I mean, technically you could take more than one a day if you want to, but you absolutely, most people are not going to do that. Obviously, it's easier just to study for one part, take the exam, study for the next part, take the exam.
Well, and that's different than the CPA test where there's kind of like scheduled days of tests, right? And then they like release the scores all at once. And is that how the CPA test works?
So not anymore. So back when I took it, you could only take it twice a year. And then I took it in May and I had to wait till August to get my results. So nowadays you actually go to a testing center, but you do have to do it by part. So there's different parts of the CPA exam. So it's a similar concept. You go and take that whole part.
Do you have to pay for the exam?
For the EA exam? Yes. So last year's price, and they haven't updated for this year. So I guess we should talk about that. The exam is administered from May 1st to February 28th of every year. And then in March and April, you can't take the exam. So the price for last year, which ended February 28th, was $259 per part.
Per part.
Per part. And I don't know if that'll go up or not for this coming year, but it is. And then if you fail and have to take it again, you have to pay again.
I'm trying to think if there's any more like admin. So, continuing education. Is that something that we're buying into once we get this credential?
You sure are.
Okay. All right. So tell us about that.
So once you become an EA, then you are required, you have to renew your EA credential every 3 years. And in that 3-year period, you have to have 72 hours of continuing education. And in any 1 year, you have to have at least 16 hours. So 72 hours obviously averages out to 24 hours a year. You don't have to do that, but you have to do at least 16 hours. And you have to do at least 2 hours of ethics each year. So you have at least 6 hours of ethics in total over the 3 years, but it has to be 2 hours each year.
Looking at the questions here. Do you need to take an exam every year? No.
Not for this. That other program we talked about, that AFSP program, they do have an annual exam. But that's different. But for enrolled agent, no, you do not. As long as you do the continuing education, you're good.
I would just say, like, if anyone has a problem with continuing education for a tax practice, they're like a fool. Like, I would never want them to be, because it changes so much. Like, talk about thing you actually need continuing ed for is this, because it's a moving target based on the government, just like the whoever's in power and like all this stuff. So I would say that would be like, that seems like a pretty minimum amount that you would need based on how much tax can change from year to year. So
agreed. And by the way, just we're recording this in February of 2025. I know
Yep.
people might be watching this in the future.
Yep.
There are set to be huge changes in 2026. There was a tax act passed back in 2018 where a lot of the provisions of that lasted through 2025.
Expired. Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
expire in 2025. So Congress is going to have to do something. So
Mhm.
and now with the new administration and everything, there could even be changes in 2025. So yes, you need to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just talk about your personal story. So how has it changed? How has getting this credential changed your career, your family's income? Like, are you glad you did it? Do you need it? Like, looking back now, do you think you needed it? What's your personal story with
Good
this?
question. So I think looking back now, I probably did not need it.
Okay.
So I look at those states that have those requirements. As far as I know, those are still the requirements, though I haven't looked lately. But it doesn't seem like anybody really cares. I see CPAs all the time practicing over state lines, and nobody seems to pay attention. You never hear about anybody getting in trouble about
Oh,
it.
okay.
I don't know that for sure, but that's my impression that I get. So honestly, for me as a CPA, did I absolutely need the credential? I probably did not. Having said that, I'm glad I went through it because, again, I did want that refresher on the tax law. Even if you don't want to be an EA and you just want to know more about tax, it is very helpful to go through all of the learning and the information because it's just going to make you better at being a bookkeeper, even if you don't want to do tax
Mhm,
and you just
mhm,
want to be a bookkeeper. And then
mhm.
now, of course, this has allowed me to help teach others to pass the EA exam. So from
Right.
that standpoint, I'm very glad that I have it.
Yeah, and again, for those of y'all, we've lots of people have kind of come in and out. The I'll put the link to the YouTube channel again in the comments, but it'll be below for those of you watching later. Um, he is making free YouTubes about passing the EA exam. So there's people, y'all. I've met people like him. They're like got tax in their blood. I don't get it. It's like they lay in bed and think about it, and they wake up in the morning and think about it. And God bless you, you know. So I'm glad that there are people who are enthusiastic about this, and who want to teach and explain things clearly. Um, well, so I want to talk about y'all. Ask your questions in the chat if you need them, because we'll start to head through the end to the end of my questions. But um, this idea of next steps if someone wants to do this, and maybe the first thing you can tell us about is your own free channel. But then I want to know, like, where can we go to get help to pass this? Because tests are hard for a lot of, like, the idea of tests are hard, even if this
Sure.
test might not be hard, although I'm guessing it is hard. Like,
Right.
what advice do you have? But start with your own material.
Sure. So I do have this YouTube channel, complete course. It's free. The 2024 course is all there. The 2025 course is in progress. So if you'll go there, you'll see the first 4 videos have been released for the 2025 course. And it is completely free. I know a lot of people say, really? But it is. And if I can say, I've had many comments, people saying that they like my course better than paid courses that they tried. So I would encourage you to at least go and try it out. You can go there and look at video 1 of part 1. And that's the one that's the most popular. And that'll give you a feel for what it's like and whether or not you think you like my teaching style and all of those sorts of things. If you're not sure whether or not you want to do tax at all, then I think you should probably check out 1 or 2 videos to see whether or not you like it. But I would also encourage you to just go read some. So the IRS, if you go to irs.gov, they've got lots of publications. They've got lots of form instructions. And you can learn a lot by reading those publications and form instructions. As a matter of fact, the EA exam is based on form instructions and publications. So if you just go and get like the 1040 form instructions, start reading them. Maybe look at a business return. A S corporation return would be an 1120S. Look at those instructions. Or a partnership return is a form 1065. Look at those instructions. Read through those instructions. Watch the free videos. This is all free, and you can see if you're reading that and you're falling asleep, or you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. I can't imagine doing this. Same way with my videos. then don't do it, right? It's
Yeah.
not for you. I don't care how much money is in it or whatever. My advice, don't do it. On the other hand, if you're reading those things and watching those things, you're like, wow, I never thought it would be this interesting. I really like this. I like learning the rules and the exceptions to the rules and how to apply it. Well, then it might be for you. And then from there, again, you have my course. It's free. It'll cover the whole exam. Also, there's PowerPoint slides that I provide for you free. You can go there and you can see in each video how to get those slides. The slides themselves kind of take the place of a book, and you can study those slides when you're not watching the videos. If you want more hands-on, like you need somebody holding your hand, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. Although I do answer questions. So if you're going through the course, any video, you have questions, put them in there. I answer questions all the time. I love to do it. But if you need more, there are paid courses. So you can Google around. You'll find there's plenty of paid courses. You can certainly take those. There are books available. You can go on Amazon and look for Enrolled Agent exam, and you'll see different books that are available. So there are various paths to doing it. It just depends on you and your style and your learning style and how you'd like to do it.
I like the idea. I'm always like a social person. Go into Tom's YouTube comments, try to connect with those people making comments, and form a little like Slack group or Facebook group or WhatsApp group, and like get like 4 or 5 of y'all and be like, okay, we're taking a test June 30th, July 30th, and August 30th, and just like bang, like that would be like so valuable. Okay, are you watching Tom tonight? Yep, I am. Here I go. And you like form like a little accountability group instead of trying to do it all on your own. Although I'm sure there's probably some paid courses where that might have like a cohort concept, but I don't know. I'm not super old. I'm not super young either. I remember, but I liked learning in communal environments, and so I think it would be hard for me to like really learn all on my own. I've always, even as the stuff I've had to learn for my business, I've like just really sought community to do that, and like and for accountability too, because otherwise you just put it off, right? There's no one breathing down your neck. There's no professor like giving you the grade or asking for the, giving you quizzes. So
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. That's why it just depends on your own style.
Yep.
So I would also say, if you know you want to be an enrolled agent, then really just go to irs.gov. I think we're going to link to it in the description.
Yeah, in the description of this video. Yep.
Yeah, irs.gov/tax-professionals. And you'll see there various things in the upper left on the menu. You'll see enrolled agent. You click on that and it'll get you started. And that's also the same page. You can get your P10 and you can find all answers to whatever questions you have about the EA exam are all there. And that's a great place to get started.
But if you read a few of those rules, y'all, on the form and they put you to sleep, like then just go learn how to do like e-commerce integrations into QuickBooks instead. And that'll be, if that lights you up more, then it's fine to not do the taxes. I want to ask about this idea of like a peaceful tax firm. Like for whatever reason, my stereotype of people who do taxes is that their lives are like really miserable for at least 4 months a year, and then probably again in September, and then again in October. And like, is that true? Are you finding that people are learning how to not live this like tax preparer life that is the stereotype in my mind? And like, let's just get that out there. Like,
sure.
Are you eating dinner with your family, or are you giving up eating dinner with your family if you do this?
So I will say that I'm going to say maybe not the answer you're expecting, but I'm going to say that the stereotype of that is largely true.
Okay.
You are going to have, you're talking about from 1st of February to April 15th. If you're really doing a lot of taxes, you're going to be busy a lot. You're going to be eating at the office a lot. You're going to be, that's certainly one of the downsides. And if you're a bookkeeper on top of it and got your normal bookkeeping to do, plus you have to do the taxes, obviously you got to take that into account as well. You still got your regular job you got to do. Now you can control obviously how many tax returns you take on. So that would be one thing that you could do. Maybe you just restrict it to those that you do your bookkeeping for instance. Those are businesses. You can charge more for a business return than for a
Mhm.
personal return because they're more complicated. So it makes sense. So you can do that. There are people who at least claim that they've been able to have a more peaceful firm by doing more consulting and tax planning and giving tax planning ideas and advice rather than focusing on the tax preparation. I haven't seen that myself. Usually, if you're doing one, you're doing the other. But I guess theoretically, at least, that is possible to do that.
I think I've heard that some people like to add it to their client load because they know that the books are good. And so one of the things that makes tax prep hard is like, the disaster walking into the office with like nothing and you're having to like do more than tax prep. Like you have to prepare to do the tax prep.
You're
And
right.
so
Yeah.
if you're the bookkeeper for the clients, then it's kind of like then it's a breeze. Like you have the numbers, that's what I've heard, is that
No,
some people.
and that is true. So that's why I said if you know the tax, it makes you a better bookkeeper. So if you're doing the books and you're doing the taxes, then you're always keeping in mind every month, you're keeping in mind how is this going to affect the tax return? Oh, I need to make a note. Or, I need to
Yeah.
make a note on this
Huh.
journal entry that says this. Oh, I need to separate this into a different account because it gets treated differently than other things do. And so if you've done all of those things, then you're going to have a good tax software, which you're going to have to pay for, but you got to get a good tax software. A lot of times you can just download it. Like if whatever, it's going to depend on the software, but they're often compatible with the common bookkeeping
Mhm,
softwares out there.
mhm,
You can download straight into your
mhm,
software and the computer will do a lot for you.
mhm.
Not everything, and you can't just trust the computer, but it can make it much easier, obviously.
Eric is saying he's a Canadian CPA and is doing Canadian tax. Um, I'm currently in a senior manager, maybe at a CPA firm. My question for Tom is it worth for a Canadian CPA to get an EA or a US CPA through reciprocity? Do you know
So
what that means?
I know what it means. I don't know what it involves. So I don't know
Okay.
how hard it is to get that reciprocity, but I do know that Canadian citizens can get an enrolled agent. So I don't think it could hurt you at all to go ahead and get the enrolled agent because then you will be able to prepare US tax returns. Unfortunately, I don't really know the ins and outs
Okay.
of what it takes to get reciprocity or how difficult that is. But certainly you can get the EA credential and you'd be able to do the work. And the EA exam, by the way, is offered in other countries. It's offered in India, it's offered in the UK, it's offered in, I think, South Korea. So there are places around the world that you can take the test. You can take the exam and you can become an enrolled agent and do US tax.
Fantastic. Louis is asking one that I'm not exactly sure. So Louis, be listening and chiming in the chat. He's saying, "Do you think this can be a career? I build up a big clientele and hammer it out during tax season." So maybe he's asking of this idea of like, do some people just work really hard for like those 4 months and then not need to do work the rest of the year? I don't know if that's what your question is. I mean, of course, Louis, tax prep can be a career. There are people who like make their whole living just doing taxes. Um, but yeah, maybe just this idea of like this idea of a career path. Is there decades in this? Do you keep clients long term? I don't know. Maybe just talk about the career aspect.
Sure. So absolutely, I would think my answer would be yes to either way the question is being asked. Obviously, if you're just looking for can you make it a long-term career, yes, you can. CPA firms, tax firms are struggling to get
True.
people.
True.
And so if again having the EA credential could help you to get maybe a tax season only type of job with a CPA firm or another tax firm. It could be an EA firm, but it can help you to get that. You can have your own clients, of course, as well. And especially if you have your own clients and you build up a good book of business, yeah, you could work hard for 4 months and not work so hard the rest of the year. Obviously, that's going to depend on your lifestyle and your expenses and
Hmm.
your circumstances. But there are certainly people who do that. They just hammer it out. They work, 12, 15-hour days for that amount of time. They do all those returns. They you have to charge a reasonable amount of money, and then they can relax a little bit for the rest of the year. I do think you at least want to be available the rest of the year, because clients are going to get notices, they're going to have questions, and so it'd be nice if you're at least, you have to be available at this minute, but you can be responsive to clients and you can take care of things as they come up. But it is doable. Yes.
There's a couple of technical questions. Stephanie's asking about tax software. Stephanie, I'm just going to direct you to his channel. We're going to keep it high level about whether bookkeepers should become an enrolled agent. If you do this, all the efforts you've put into learning QuickBooks and like how to get statements from clients and like all that stuff, you're going to have a whole nother set of like operations to learn to run a tax firm.
And you got to learn a new software.
You got to learn, and there's a bunch to choose from, right? We're
Yes,
picking between QuickBooks or Xero. I chose FreshBooks. Like we're picking, so all that operational stuff, and if that was hard, like it's going to be equally hard. Like running a business is so hard. And if you do this, there are tax-only businesses. So it's almost like you're starting like a whole nother business if you add this, y'all. So just know that there's going to be that learning curve in addition to studying to be able to deliver these things is going to feel different. You'll be a little bit skilled at like customer service, probably if you already have your bookkeeping firm, you'll be skilled at communicating and like what apps you like. Are you going to be on Slack? You're going to have like, there's all these like portals you can have. But so Stephanie, Intuit Pro Connect, like you Google the answer or ask ChatGPT. All these are going to have people who are fans of the software, and there are going to be people who are mad at the software, just like with every bookkeeping software, right? Like, so it's going to be trial and error. But I think there's an excitement about adding like new career goals and paths. But every turn we take like this is hard, and it could be lucrative. It's risky. So that means that this high, risk reward, right? Like you might crash and burn, and you might hate it, and but that's what life is all about, right? We're hopefully going to live long time. So,
and also speaking of risk, there's also just the professional liability risk. So you want to make sure that your E&O insurance covers for tax work. Obviously, if you make a mistake on a tax return, it can cost people real money. Or if you give bad advice, it can cost real money. So you have to consider that. You want to make sure that your insurance is up to date. And you just want to realize that this is why, if you don't have a credential and you're just kind of winging it, you don't really know what you're doing, you really are setting yourself up for a problem. Because if you overlook something and it costs your client thousands of dollars, hello lawsuit.
Yeah, they're going to be mad. And I always emphasize how serious it is to be a bookkeeper. We're dealing with small businesses like livelihood. This is how our clients feed their families, is through their business. And people's tax bills is a part of how they feed their family, right? Like we want the refund. We want to lower our tax bill. And so this isn't some like, oh, I can do some taxes for like 2 months and it'll be cool and I can charge, like, no, this is serious as anything. Okay. So take it seriously, get training. Don't sneeze at the CPE. Like you got to get the continuing ed. All that is so important. But if it sounds exciting, then this could be a decades-long career that it could change your life, just like bookkeeping changed my life. Like I know there's people who started tax firms and it changed their life, So there's no right or wrong answer here. Every person's going to have their own answer to this question. But my hope is that through this conversation, we've given you some tools to answer it for yourself. I love that you've given us some tools to try to answer that question pretty cheaply. So no one should be running and spending any money after listening to this video. There's like 10 free steps to take before you think, I'm going to invest in my education. Go do some of his free tips first, okay? But then if you're serious and it lights you up and you don't fall asleep when you're reading the forms or listening to his videos, then how cool is that? You found your calling. That's awesome. So I'm looking at the last questions. Eric, Tom talks about why he has both credentials at the beginning of this video. He's asking if the EA is better received or a CPA. I mean, the CPA has better recognition. I don't think anyone would quibble with that. And then someone is asking that you're saying that the EA the exams sound easy. Oh no, someone is clarifying. Tom's You might think the EA exams sound easy, but trust me, it's not. If you don't study and are not good at taking an exam, you'll have a very hard time passing them. And that's two things. You got to be good at test taking, and you got to be good at the material. Both of those are different skill sets, which I'm sure you talk about on your channel, right? Like,
right. Yeah. And also, yeah, I don't want to make it sound, the exam is not easy. I think I said before it was moderately difficult is how I would put it, but you do have to study. If you're going to show up and just think, well, I read something, or I watched Tom's videos one time and I'm going to go take no, you're going to have to think about probably 200 hours, 300 hours of study time,
studying. Okay.
to really do well, to pass these exams. This is not something, I love being able to do this, and I hope that my videos help you. But if you think you can just watch my videos and that's the end of it, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. You're going to have to put in the time.
And rightfully so. This is a serious career, serious profession. It's hard. And we're not born knowing this stuff. That's what makes it so hard, is like, it's just the unique US like law and forms. And so you could be Einstein, and Einstein would fail this exam because it's not innate knowledge, right?
Honestly, you could be a CPA who actually does some tax work. Now, if you're doing it all the time, you probably could pass it, but you could be a CPA who does some tax work. If you don't study, you're not going to pass this exam. When I went and took the exam in 2017, I studied. It's not like I just said, oh, I know this stuff, because they're going to test you on memorizing certain numbers in certain number of days. You've got 30 days to do this, or 90 days to do that. Or the standard deduction is $14,600 if you're single. You have to know those. In our everyday tax lives, when we're using tax software to do our tax returns, we're not thinking about those numbers all the time. We're just not. But you have to study.
Tom, this has been great. Y'all, links to his channel and ways to connect with him are below. Links to the IRS website. Lots of those free places to get started. That's where we want to direct you to for your next step. Come into the Bookkeeping Side Hustle community and tag him. Ask. There's lots of tax people in there, so you can come and get some more information if you want to start to find people who've added tax to their practice. Some people probably have and then backed off. Some people are probably thriving at it. So come get some stories about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what it is, so that way you can make a decision for yourself. I'm so grateful for your time today and for all the energy you've put into creating all that free material as well. So keep up the good work, and we'll sign off for now. I think we've gotten all the questions here. Lots of people. Gabby says, very informative, love it. Santino says, great live so far, very educational. So we've gotten lots of good feedback. I'm glad to keep providing it, y'all. We'll see you on the next live stream. Adios for now.